to move into the next item on our agenda, which is to move back to the main session and have our guest speaker. Okay, so I'll just introduce her. I'm very excited to present our guest speaker for today's webinar, none other than Bode Abifarin, the COO of Flutterwave. We're really honored to have her grace our occasion and share with us. Okay, Bode is the Chief Operating Officer of Flutterwave, and she's responsible for managing operations and performance across the organization. Prior to joining Flutterwave, she worked as an Associate Director in KPMG Professional Services with a career spanning over 15 years. Her experience covers customer advisory, development of strategy and models for financial institutions and organizations, as well as proposing various ways to scale, improve efficiency and profits. Let's give a warm Paywen welcome to our guest speaker for today, Bode Abifarin. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. I hope everyone can hear me. I had to log on using my phone for the session today. Good afternoon. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
All right, thank you. Okay, so I think I have the next 20 minutes, right? And in the next 20 minutes, I'll just talk a bit about, just a bit of background about myself. I'll talk about, because I'm a non-tech person, I was listening to the last speaker and the questions that were being asked. I'll talk a bit about the sort of careers and the sort of ways you can work in tech. And then I'll just give a few just snippets of things to think about, even as you're thinking, I heard the last question, I did agree, I want to transit into tech, what do I need to do? All right, so just a bit of background about myself. My name is Bode Abifarin. I started my career actually at KPMG. So in KPMG, you know, KPMG is multidisciplinary, so it doesn't matter what you studied, right? You can work at KPMG. So when you come in, you get to do a bit of everything. And then maybe in your third and fourth year, you begin to focus on a particular area. So for me, when I started, I did process, I did strategy, I did everything until the fourth year when I started focusing on strategy advisory. For strategy advisory, what we're doing was we're helping banks to come up with their strategies, helping banks to, if it's retail, if it's corporate, just saying, how do you go forward, right? How do you develop your go-to-market and how do you develop your implementation plans? Some of the organizations, so we're not just banks, for anything financial services. So I worked with banks, I worked with insurance, financial services in general. Then towards the last, because I spent a little over 15 years at KPMG, so towards the end of that, I started working on the banking industry customer satisfaction survey. So I led that for over 10 years, right? And we're essentially just saying, okay, how do you win? And we know that you start with the customer and what are the things that you need to do. So that was essentially what I was doing for about over 15 years before I joined Flutterwave in 2018. And I've been with Flutterwave for about 5 years now. So, okay, so that's really the background of how I started. So before I talk about the careers and the sort of things that you can do in tech, I think one of the things that is critical is even where you are now, right? You have to determine that what are the skills, because I know that the group that I'm speaking to is a group of people that maybe just started working, people that have worked and have a number of years already in their career. So in your career already, you have to start saying, so my first point, right, in terms of just thinking about what's the next thing, is that based on the number of years I've spent working now, and it doesn't matter what you started. So for instance, if you're in finance, let's even take somebody in finance now that is saying, I've done finance, I've done accounting, I've been in the finance department for the past 4 years. and I'm thinking, okay, I work in a bank or I work in insurance. What's the next stage for me? And, how do I move into tech? I think one of the first things you have to ask yourself is, if you take the whole finance department, there are different areas, FP&A. Some people are doing posting, some people are doing reconciliation. Even if you're in reconciliations, what do I know now? And what do I want to be doing in the next 5 years? So the first question is, how good are you at that? And what technical skills have you built up for yourself? Now, as you're thinking about that, you now need to start thinking that, okay, as I'm in this department and I'm thinking in the next 5 years, I want to work in a tech department, in a tech company, you now start asking yourselves that, okay, have I joined a community? So I heard that also with the last speaker. I think one of the first things you now need to do is, I want to be a reconciliation analyst, but in tech, right? There are different sorts of tech companies, right? So if you look at tech now, Flutterwave is a payment infrastructure company. That's payment. There's Piggyvest. Piggyvest does investment. There's Crowdyvest. There's Carbon. They do loans. So there are different areas where people, where we call tech companies. And what's really a tech company? A tech company means that you have taken what traditionally will do. So if you look at banks today, you go and traditionally people used to go and queue to try and transfer money, but now there are all sorts of apps. So somebody has said, instead of people going into the bank, let me use an app. So from the comfort of my home, I can do this. It's the same thing for loans. Instead of you to write all the big letters and all the big forms you need to fill, somebody has said, let me disrupt this, right? Why can't people do this from the comfort of their homes? Let them just put all their details. I have a database where I check if they are credit worthy. I just give them the loans, and I have all these ways of making sure they're able to pay back. So there's loans, there's tech, even in health. We've seen likes of 54 Gene. So if you look at every industry, the people that are in the tech industry, so to say, are people that have disrupted using technology. So it's not just payments, it's not just the likes of Flutterwave. We have so many companies in different areas, even in insurance, right? In whatever you think about, right? Even in phones, the people that Apple, even in cars, you can see what Tesla and Elon Musk are doing. So tech companies, really any company that has disrupted and are thinking about what's the pain of the customer. So it doesn't matter whatever you're doing now. And I can give you an example. So for instance, today, if you look at Flutterwave, even though we're a technology company, if you receive payments, right, we have product managers, we have people that manage finance, we have people that are very good in product management, we have people that are project managers, we have people that do procurement because we have to buy fixed assets, we have people that go to the market to sell, sales and growth. We have engineering. Now, engineering too has layers. You can be a front-end engineer, you can be a back-end engineer, you can be a core engineer. We have people that are not engineers that are also supporting engineers. So we have engineering support. We have people, because people work in an organization. So of course we have human resources. We call them people managers. So people managers, under that you have, if you're doing talent management, people operations, even HR business support people, they are not tech people. We have people that do regulatory and legal affairs. So we have lawyers, people that manage regulators. We have people that do compliance. They are not coders. They are not. So we have compliance. If you're doing compliance, fraud desk, people that monitor fraud desk. And of course, we have customer experience. Customer experience, people that manage the contact center, people that pick calls. And then we have enterprise support too. So these people are like account managers, people that make sure that the customers are okay. So you can see that I've mentioned up to 12 things that you can actually do in tech, right? And it depends. So if you go to a company that is health, for instance, of course, there'll be people that are health technical people, but they always need support, because as long as you're a company, money comes in, right? You need people in finance. For instance, in our own organization, we have people that do reconciliations, we have people that do postings. It's the whole work. So I think one of the first things that you have to do, and the last speaker said it, is that once you identify that you want to transition, and I'm speaking to people both transitioning and saying, I want to work in a tech environment and I want to be like a core technical person, an engineer that is coding and all of that. There are different paths that you can take, and it takes a deliberate effort. So like I said, you have to say, what are you good at, right? I use finance as an example. You now say, for finance, for tech, what things do I need to learn? So you join a community of thought leaders, and it's now very easy, right? We have all sorts of organizations like what Powen is doing. We have all sorts of organizations like Women in Tech. You have to actively seek for some of these organizations, join them, participate, know the different workshops, the different sessions. And now, even knowledge has now been also disrupted just online. If you log on with just very few monies now, you can log on to some of these very specific tests, very specific communities. Even joining communities is now very easy, so that you will know that if they're saying, if you're a finance person today, it's not just ACCA you need to have. You need to have this sort of skills. You need to know about crypto. You need to know about blockchain technology. When you join those communities, it helps you, because you'll be surprised that today you will ask some people that are traditional bankers and you talk about blockchain, they actually have no idea what you're talking about. Meanwhile, if you join these communities, you begin to see that people are thinking about, the sort of ledgers that are going to disrupt things. How, it's amazing what you can learn when you join a community of thought leaders. And not just join the community, you have to actively participate. So when you seek the knowledge, that's when you find it. I think another thing is that once you join the communities, right, you now have to start seeking opportunities to put yourself in line. So I think one of the things that I also very quickly in my career wanted to do was I wanted to dedicate time also working, or committing my time to helping other organizations. So I was helping big organizations, but on my weekends, I also volunteered in a number of places. So I volunteered in Faith Foundation. I volunteered in some other community things where they're talking about tech-related things. I knew customer experience, I knew strategy, so I was always there saying, okay, this is what I know, how can I contribute? And once you join those group of people, you begin to have conversations that makes you ask questions, right? And in asking questions, there's this concept that they talk about, that the concept of the 5 whys. So, when you join a community, you can't be passive, because you know where you're going. You now start asking, what's the first why? It's the concept of 5 whys. It says that by the time you get to your 5th why, you understand why something is that way. So I hope because I can't see people, right? I just want to be sure I'm communicating. So that's really the second point. You join the community of thought leaders and actively participate. So the other thing is, somebody talked about it in terms of mentorship. Now, mentorship is very important. Like when I joined tech, right? I didn't have I wasn't really connected to the sort of mentors, right, that I thought I was going to have. Unlike in consulting, I had very, very senior mentors. I had people that I always spoke to. But one of the things I did was I knew that they were not in tech, but they had left like a structured environment to a non-structured environment. And I started asking questions. How would this be? So this person will say, you have to build a 30-day plan. You have to think about this way. These are the sorts of things, nothing really prepares you until you get your hands dirty, but it sort of gives you an anchor. So now, more than ever, I can tell you, like off the top of my fingers, 10 organizations that I know are helping women, not just women, helping people once you plug yourself in. So getting a mentor, and you can only get as much as you want from mentorship. I remember once I was on a speaking engagement, right? And from that speaking engagement, there were 2 people that followed up with me after I spoke. It was at LBS. That was over a year ago. I'll never forget them because they're still in my life today. Because after that talk, they reached out to me. They sent me. I was like, oh, I'm very busy, but we agreed a time. They set it in my calendar. We always had those meetings, and they also had their own businesses that they are running. And in running that business, right, I was able to, at least from my own knowledge and perspective, just tell them, you do this, you don't do this. Some of them have, come on some of the products that we're doing at Flutterwave, just letting them know, plugging them into, we have a weekly training that we do for SMEs. So you have to find a mentor and you get as much as you want. this sort of journey and this sort of move, you cannot be passive about it. You have to be very active, right, in making the moves. You seek the mentors, because sometimes they are very busy people, and the mentors don't have to be C-level mentors. There are different people doing very well. There are different communities. You have to make the time. If it's on a weekend, is it just participate, go, get the cards, do follow-ups. And if it's a 30 minutes block, if the person really sees that if I give to this person, right, the person is also coming back, and you can see the results, they will definitely commit the time. So so mentorship is also very, very important. Now, for some of us that, for the people that have been maybe in the careers, right? Maybe you've been on doing a particular sort of job, maybe for like 10 years, right? You've been in that particular job or that position. Sometimes you have to now be sensitive and know when it's time. When it's time, people will be like, oh, okay, so they get another nudge, right? Another year has passed. But deep down, right, if you do some soul searching, you know when it's time for you to move, right? And once you start being sensitive and knowing that, oh, it's time for me to move, I can see this opportunity. Some of the opportunities won't come like all coated with diamond, but because you are very clear of the goal and what you want to do, right, you take advantage of some of those opportunities, and you now skill yourself up in that area and make the move, because a lot of the learning is actually when you now make the move, make the adjustments, and then you can go from there. I've talked about then the other thing is, don't be consumed by the work that you're doing. You have to be always ahead. And the way you can be ahead is by thought leadership, right? So reading up in your area, understanding the playbook of the future of whichever area or space that you're also playing in. And I think the most important thing that I also want to pass across is that everything you do in the end is a combination of all the experiences and everything that you have already learned today. And I'll give an example. I remember when I started off my career at KPMG, it coincided with that time that MTN was doing base stations. So MTN had an issue. I think they were saying their base stations and all of that were not working properly. So they wanted KPMG to come and help them on that. So I was deployed to Abuja to go and look at that. And my work that time was engineers will come in, they will ask for materials, I'll give them materials, I was supposed to do the reconciliation of all of it. I was a bit discouraged because I was like, this is not what I signed up for. I want to be a consultant, right? Why am I in a store giving out spare parts and all of that at that time? But just to talk to the issue of mentorship again, I had someone was just like 1 year ahead of me in the firm. And it was like, it doesn't really matter. Just apply yourself. You won't be there forever. Take all the learnings. And I remember that I applied myself so much that even everything, my own reconciliation, I read up about it. So by the time they were putting me on my next project, it was like a finance reconciliation project. So everything I had learned, came in handy. So it's the same way that you may think, oh, every day I'm always reconciling. I'm always doing this. The only difference is if you're reconciling and you're using Excel all the time, because you are plugged in and you're learning and taking all the learnings, you can say, maybe I should build a macros. Maybe this can be done on an app. Those are the sort of things. And the only way you can get that fresh thinking is by networking and getting involved in all of these communities, right? I don't know. I just want to take some feedback now and see if this has really helped. But yeah, I think the most critical thing and what I want to pass across is that beyond engineering and coding, right? There's so much that happens on the tech side. We have people that have moved from the banks. They are salespeople. They are doing sales and growth today. We have people that have moved from consulting. They were doing consulting. They are great product managers today. We have people that even started in customer experience, right? They joined customer experience, but because they're already in the environment, today they are great engineers because they took the time as they're doing CX. If you do CX, you are taking all the information on customers. You have to understand the products for you to be able to tell the customers, this is what you want, this is what you don't want. And in the process, they see that they have an inkling to coding. They start, you have Udemy, you have all these places. you have girls who code, you have all of those things, but it takes commitment, right? To get through some of those things, they commit themselves. And before you know it, you'll be like, wow, you're coding. And then definitely, because there's always opportunities for those that are prepared, right? You move them, they start coding, and then they do so great, right? We know people that started with CX, they are great integration managers. They started with CX, they are great product managers today. Yeah, so I'll pause here for now and take some feedback. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Bode. I would just reiterate, I mean, we've learned so much. My notes is full. I've just been taking notes copiously. You mentioned, the importance of collaboration, sharing your work. You also talked about the fact that knowledge has been democratized, it's available to us online, so we should just take advantage of that. I also want to highlight, certain things that pretty simple, practical, insights that we sometimes overlook. The importance of joining a community of thought leaders and participating actively. You've also talked about mentorship and how it's important to take the learnings, from your mentor and apply them, so that because it's a two-way street, like one of our speakers mentioned, you need to encourage your mentor to give you more by applying what you learn. You said we also have to be very active in making our moves. It's not a passive journey. We won't be sitting back. We're supposed to take the bull by the horns. And also, you mentioned that we shouldn't be consumed by the work that we're doing. So I really like the example that you gave about even if you're always doing something, the same thing, like reconciliation, you can find new ways, better ways of doing what you're doing. And those new ways you will learn when you collaborate with others, when you connect with other people. Thank you very, very much. We won't be taking any questions. We will just be rounding off now. And
we have some questions. Ask the questions, please.
Okay, all right. Okay, so if you have any questions, please.
Two people have raised their hands.
Their hands, all right. Okay, so
have questions, I guess. So let me allow her to speak.
Sure, please unmute your mic and you have the floor.
Precious, you can ask a question. Okay, so let's try Gertrude. Okay, I'll assume maybe those were mistakes. Bukola, you can speak now.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Hi.
Thank you so much, Bode, for this wonderful exposition. I just want to ask if you can just leave your contacts. I need to ask you some questions personally, and I need you to put me through some things.
Sure. I'll share it with the host.
Okay, thanks so much. God bless you.
Sorry, but Bukola, would you mind sharing one of those questions with us so that at least everyone else can, even if it's just one of those questions?
Okay. I'm into food business.
Okay.
I'm an event planner and I'm a chef. So I'm just looking at, because I missed the digital marketing class. That's my target for this conference, but I missed it. So I'm looking at ways whereby I can advertise my product and get the digital marketing, making very good use of it. I can go about it and use it positively for my business. That's just it.
Okay, I'll share my contact and we can have a conversation specific to that. But so that means your business is online. People can
Yes.
buy. Yeah,
yes,
buy.
I have online presence and I have physical presence.
Yes, so we can talk about that. I think so that is more specific. But from experience, especially during that COVID time. The people that were into food, business, supplies, we saw a lot of growth, by taking advantage of some of. Yeah, so definitely, I'll share my and have a conversation.
All right, thanks so much.
All right,
I
thanks.
appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, I just also wanted to add, right, that in your journey, especially for the people that feel like they are ready to switch, there may be a lot of volunteering that you need to also do once you've identified where you want to transit to in terms of industry. Like I said, it's not just payments. It's just think of all the. You have to be deliberate and say, where are all the opportunities today and what do I really want to do? Like in my case, right, even before I joined Flutterwave, there was a lot of volunteering I had done, like work that I wasn't even paid for, just to get in there and understand what was happening, right? Before, like almost up to a year, right, before I finally joined, because the more you soak in, the more you are able to ask yourself the questions, the more you're able to say, okay, speak the language, understand how it works, right? Because the most important thing is how can you add value? Because by the time you start going through your interviews, the interviews will start with what exactly do you even know? Like I said, it's not just for engineering. Engineers, you have to go and learn how to code. You have to be a coder to be an engineer, right? But for the other areas, like if you're a finance person, you're a great finance person, you know what you need to do, right? So you already have the skill, you can add the value, so you will pass the interview, right? So once you are ready, I think it's just taking those deliberate steps to say, how do I now translate, depending on the level that you are. And for most tech companies, once they have a product market fit and you can see that there's a goal and the objective, you understand the impact that they want to make, right? You may need to make some sacrifices to be able to transit, right? But in the end, as you grow with them, right, the more you learn, the more value you add to yourself. And once you are valuable, right, you continue to become valuable, which is why when I talked about just reading and getting more depth in the industry, and Twitter banter is not the depth, it's really that you've really gone in, studied, right, and understand what needs to be done. But when you are now in that environment, studying and reading and going forward becomes easier.
Right. Thank you. Thank you so much for that insightful, wealth of knowledge that you've shared with us, Bode. Okay. Do we have any more questions?
I have a question.
Okay.
Thank you, Bode, for that awesome session. So you talked about sacrifices, and I really want to highlight this point, especially for the career women on the call. Did you have to make any sacrifice in leaving KPMG as assistant director and joining Flutterwave, a startup that was relatively unknown then, right? Because it's not now that everyone knows about Flutterwave. Then it was relatively unknown. So what was the thinking process that helped you make that decision to take that leap?
Okay. I think I've been, this question usually comes up. I think for me, right, I'll say it was the clarity of the vision and the problem that was set out to be solved, right, by the founder. So that when some people tell you this is what I'm trying to do, right, but when somebody tells you, you can see the vision with such clarity. The explanation is not just fluffy, right? I think that was one of the key things for me. And then I was able to witness what I call the creativity and the power of engineering. Engineering meaning that how people can build, some of us, right, when we did computer science those days, it was a bit of dragging. They'll take you to the computer room, you see them DOS, the computer job, like type DOS, but you see these guys, they type everything, and it becomes, you can touch it because, you test it and the payment goes. There was nothing, an integration, a code, it goes. So for me, it was like the beauty of engineering that, wow, this can actually solve world problems. And it was more of an impact thing. So I could see it because the problem is we're trying to help people put their businesses digitally. We're saying that we want you to grow and participate in the global market space. So it doesn't matter where you are. If you start a business today and you want to collect payments in Tanzania, in Accra, wherever it is, right? You just focus on your business, right? We have built an infrastructure. So there are people that have worked and built this infrastructure by trying to pull everything together. So imagine the power of that for small businesses, for merchants, for everyone just trying to grow, right? It's no longer as tedious as it used to be. And if people are going to do this right, businesses will grow. Like in the thick of the pandemic, I don't know how many people heard about the Flutterwave store. So the Flutterwave store, for instance, in 5 minutes, you have your own e-commerce store. You can just put everything. You just take pictures, put it up, and then you can sell. People just go there, they sell. You can monitor when they buy, all of those things, right? And you can see that is being built. So, the future belongs to what they call innovators and builders. And you can see that, okay, this thing, right, we can actually, we can actually make it work, right, and make the impacts required. So I think those are some of the things that helped me. And I think also some of the points I had made about just knowing, being sensitive, right, and knowing that, okay, it's time to make a move, right? And that's a combination of things, your belief, your sensitivity, all of those things. And you've looked deep down, you're like, there's really nothing, I need to make this move now. And you just go and you make the move and try to contribute your own quota of what you know to moving things forward. I don't know if that summary sort of helps or answers the question.
Yes, it did. Yes, it did. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I actually have a question. Okay, so in the legal space, one thing I've noticed is they're a bit skeptical about technology. So when you have conversations with certain lawyers, they're not even up to speed as to a lot of new things that are happening. And then you find that we still have a traditional way of serving our clients. What do you think are areas where we can apply technology in innovating the legal industry, since it forms a foundation to business and economic growth, especially for newer lawyers? Yes.
Okay, I think for me, right, the only difference, I'm always trying to pull it back to, I know I'm talking about payments, right? There's technology in everything that we're doing. I was speaking to a group of parents, right, last week, and they were talking about, my child is always, he wants to develop, he wants to innovate, and I'm like, you have to encourage them, right? And innovation comes from what is the problem. So somebody must have said cars are always going in a very funny way. Let's do the traffic lights. Somebody must have said, okay, from traffic lights, all of those things is really thinking about how do we make technology quicker? Let's look at these investment people. Now, at a point, you needed to have maybe like ₦1 million to go and invest in a bank before they will even listen to you. Now, with your 10,000 naira, somebody imitated a real life colo online. You know what colo is? That box you used to save. That's what PiggyVest is about. Do you understand? It's online. You can break they've mimicked the real life thing, but they've used technology as the layer. And that's the same thing we have to think about in everything. And if you look at the world innovations, if you're very interested in innovations, you go to YouTube and you spend time, I always encourage people, sometimes you spend 5 hours on Twitter, on Instagram before but go to YouTube, see what people are innovating. They're innovating in everything. If somebody stands up and they cannot walk well, they'll be like, let me do an alarm clock, so it's that kind of thing you need to take to your legal profession. And you're saying it's in little things. When the world was in standstill and nobody was moving, it was the whole world. It wasn't even Nigeria. Even if you had cousins abroad, the way they'll be like, Nigerian people cannot move, they're laughing. Everybody couldn't move, right? So even CAC, board meetings, a lot of things that people were physically going for, a lot of those things changed. At a point, some people will say you have to wet sign, but now I don't know how many people know about HelloSign. So with HelloSign, somebody came up with it that you don't need to just upload your documents, people can sign. That's innovation. Somebody thought about it. Even this Zoom that we're using, Zoom became popular during COVID because somebody said, wow, let's do this. And now this Zoom, they've just upgraded. I was talking to the tech person that is managing this, and I was like, Bode, because I couldn't log on, I'm using my phone. It was like, Bode, they've done an upgrade 5 weeks ago, because now you can mimic breakout sessions. Before you needed to find rooms in hotels where you could. Now with Zoom, you can just break people into sessions. So the same thing with legal. You need to say, how do we start? What are the things that we need to know? How do we move paper? People are running paperless organizations today. I know an audit firm that they're saying that they don't even have paper in their office. Meanwhile, we have audit firms, the first place you enter, it's 2 rooms full of paper. So it's saying HelloSign, with HelloSign, you can send, people can now sign their signature. It's the same thing that with payment links, you don't even need anything. You just send your payment links. People are paying you for gyms. They just come online. Everybody's gymming together. So that's the same way that you look at it. Now, if you want to transit to tech, right? Legal is still legal, right? Even in tech. But the way you will now look at it is a bit different, right? So even lawyers, when they come in, you have to now say, okay, this environment, what are the things that that come up, and there'll be some training. But if you look at, it's the same way you now need to break down all of those things and say, how can we, use technology to enable? If people are bringing 54 papers, how can we reduce that to 2? What are the things? How can they upload instead of coming physically? So within the confines on what is available within your license, within the laws, within all of those things, all those considerations. I don't know if you understand my point, right? Yeah, thank you.
Perfectly. Thank you so much. One key takeaway is the fact that you need to break down, the step-by-step process of the traditional processes, and then look at how you can innovate on, maybe one part of it or even the entire chain. All right. Thank you so much, Bode, for sharing from your wealth of knowledge and insights. Thank you to all our panelists and our mentors. Thank you to every participant. Every great thing that has a beginning, has to end at some point. It's been a wonderful journey so far. And I will be bringing the founder of PayWen and the convener of this conference on to give the closing remarks. Please give a warm welcome to Oluwase Ikende Peters.
Hello, everyone. And wow, it's unbelievable that what we started early this morning has finally come to an end. But it's not an end, right? Don't forget, it is the Tech Up Africa project, and this is just the first phase. So officially now, the application for the Tech Up Africa project is open. The link to apply for the program will be put in the chat box, and will also be sent to your email addresses before the end of today. It is an opportunity. You see all those wonderful speakers and panelists that we have had. It is your opportunity to get to be mentored directly by them. And we'll be selecting the top 100 applicants from all the applications that we receive. And don't forget, the applications will be coming from far and wide. So make sure that you give your application the best shots and the best answers to the questions. The recordings for this session will also be made available. You will get the links to that in the email that will be coming shortly. So on that note, I'll say a big thank you for staying with us till the end. This is the beginning of great things. This is the beginning of having women leading and succeeding in tech. And I do not think it can even ever get easier for a woman to be in tech than now. The moment is now, the time is now, and it is that opportunity that you have to seize the moment and change the trajectory of your career, because the future is indeed tech. Thank you so much, and do enjoy the rest of your weekend.
Thank you. Thank you. It will be nice to see our faces, to see the faces of the participants.
Just want to say thank you for organizing this. This was an amazing event. Thank you so much for putting in the work.
Thank you, Ronke. Thank you for that.
All right, I forgot to mention, right? To all our esteemed speakers, first and foremost, I want to apologize for the technical challenges. I mean, I just told myself that this is very unusual, but we had some slight challenges, which, I mean, it's no excuse, but I will still apologize on behalf of the organization. This is definitely in no way